I live in Texas. I live in College Station, Texas. Jeff.
Where is this?
College Station's about about 200 miles south of Dallas, something like that.
Okay, I know where Austin is, and that's about it. So where is it in relation to Austin?
You don't know where Dallas is?
Right, sure. So I'm. Some people maps are hard, man. I'm like about 180 so miles east of Austin.
That's totally doable.
I'm kind of in between the three big cities: Houston, Austin, Dallas.
I'm in Austin next week. You should come visit me.
When?
Next week.
Next week. That's a long period of time, man.
Mike Wells is coming down. It's gonna be fun.
Nice. There's lots of people out in Austin. Keith, Travis.
Yeah, Miko's there. I don't know if you know her.
Those two. Yeah, Miko's.
Right. Hello.
What's up?
I'm having some British problems. I I threw a tea bag into the mug, and then it already had some old coffee in it. So then I accidentally poured the water in there on top of the coffee and the tea bag, and then I had to go and clean everything out and find a new tea bag. So I could.
Isn't that how you make? That's how you make toffee, isn't it?
No, I'm immature, but I can't not laugh when someone says teabag.
Yeah, no, I mean I said it 7 times just purely for your benefit. So. When I say it, it has to sound fairly innocent, but if anyone else says it, it's just gross and seedy. These are some of the gems that we have on the start of our videos, which we're usually meant to cover.
See,
Never quite do.
you guys thought we were unprofessional, but this is us before the podcast, so it's actually a pretty huge improvement once we hit that.
It's a step up, yeah.
So what we need to do.
How long have we been live, by the way?
Yeah, we're live. So I've worked out how we're going to introduce this episode, and you guys need to go with me on this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then cool rock paper scissors, and we're going to do it basically PHP Town Hall against the other PHP Town Hall, and then you guys against each other, and then the winner they do a quick one, and then that works out how we introduce it. So Ben. And you guys do this as well. What? It's just a playoff system for fucking rock, paper, scissors. How is this complicated?
Is it us against them or me against you?
Hang on. So, Ben, I play you, and at the same time, Jeff and Matt need to play each other.
Okay.
And then those two, the winners and the winners play. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then we draw, okay?
But you win if you lose, so you don't have to do the opening.
The opening is a prize that should be cherished. I don't understand.
I'm with Ben. If you and Jeff want to play, that's cool.
All right, Jeff, I'll play you for the.
How about whoever wins? It gets to be their podcast, and the other podcast is just not mentioned at all.
Welcome, yeah. Welcome to the Loosley couple.
Welcome to the Loose Town Hall. Wait.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, we're playing. Let's go.
Wait a minute.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and then you go.
All right, let's go.
3, 2,
Got it.
1.
That lag's killer.
This doesn't work on the lag.
Yeah, the lag is terrible.
Well,
This is terrible.
Yeah, take it away. Fuck it.
Congratulations, Jeff, you won.
Take what away? What am I doing?
You're introducing the PHP Town Hall, and we'll introduce Loosely Coupled.
It's episode 26 of Town Hall and episode 6 of Loosely Coupled. So
27,
both.
27 of Town Hall.
Are we on 28?
27, I think.
How about you do it since you don't even know what number you're on? We're on number 6.
Yeah, it's 27. It's 27.
Dude, we have 2 unrecorded. We have 2 unpublished episodes. You have episode 26 and 27. Yeah.
Who's 26?
Hang the fuck up. 26 is the user group, and then 27 is the...
Yeah, the user group. Yeah, okay. 28. Boom. Amateurs.
Jeff, take it away.
All right, welcome to the PHP Town Hall, episode 28, and loosely coupled episode 6, Mashup. Tonight we have Ben Edmonds, Phil Sturgeon, Matt Frost, and myself, Jeff Carruth, here. What are we going to talk about today, guys?
There are a couple of things I think we're going to talk about. Something along the lines of kind of burnout, taking on too much. Following on from some of your open source stuff you were talking about in Loosely Coupled episode 5, I think, of how you can get yourself more involved in open source, and maybe some of the things that can happen kind of after that when you end up taking on a little bit too much. Yeah, how do you actually, one thing I wanted to start talking about before we talked about any of that, which I think it would be interesting to a few people, is talking about where you currently are and where you're from. Like, what's your where are you in the world, in the grand scheme of things, and what's your working situation? Because I know the stories from two of you, which are fairly interesting. And Jeff, I don't really know too much about your situation.
So when you say where we are in the world, is this philosophical or geographical?
Geographically, I think.
Between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, so I guess I can start this off. So I live in Texas, in the United States, obviously. I work for a company called Liftopia, liftopia.com.
Country?
Yes, Texas is actually its own country, in case you're unaware of that. Just ask any Texans, I'll tell you. But I work for a company called Liftopia.com. We sell ski lift tickets online. Primarily what I do is back-end work. I've been doing it for over a decade. I do, so it's a lot of fun to switch between them. I don't know what else to say. That's kind of what I've been doing for a while, and that's it.
Do you find yourself putting dollar signs in your Ruby code all the time?
I actually do. So that's a funny thing of switching between the two. Like, I find myself putting dollar signs and using, like, Ruby kind of favors the snake case and such, so I find myself mixing between the two of those. And then also semicolons are a big thing, so no semicolons in Ruby code. That one catches me quite a bit, so yeah, I do. It's tough switching between the two of them all the time.
I actually found quite a good solution to that. Something I started doing when I was working for Capture, because they have we have a lot of PHP, Ruby, and Python. Was actually have 3 different IDE color themes for when I'm working in each language. Sublime actually lets you do that. So I had Dale Reese has like 100 different themes, and I picked one that was mostly gray and purple for Python, one that was mostly orange for Ruby, and one that was like, I can't remember the PHP one, like green and purple or some shit. And that really helped me out, just like the visual reminder of like, oh, green and purple, that means put semicolons on anything. Really kind of helped me out, but I don't know.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of doing something like that. Although I'm not sure about the Sublime thing. It's, Vim is the only editor in the world, so sorry about that, Phil.
Let's not get involved in that conversation. Welcome to 1 hour of 3 people arguing over their favorite editor and the other person pissing off to the pub.
Now, this could actually be interesting, though, since me and Phil are both Sublime guys, and you both are Vim guys, right? So
Yeah.
it's the world of, like, really successful programmers using Sublime, and this horrible podcast people using Vim.
Yeah, it's
quite
a paradigm.
Yeah, it's I guess just how things work out, huh? You guys want to trade so we can have you guys use Vim for a while, we'll use Sublime?
We could trade one person each, so it's...
Oh, one person each, so balance it out. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Am I just going to completely screw things up by saying I've actually started using PHP Storm quite a bit recently?
All right, I think this podcast is over.
Yeah, we can no longer talk to Phil.
All right, Phil, tell us where you are right now in the world.
Currently staying in a hotel because last time I did a podcast, it was on until 4 a.m. and my parents screamed at me.
Did you rent the hotel just for the podcast? Like,
pretty
you love
much.
us that much?
Kind of. So my whole situation at the moment is that I'm back in the UK in between visas, because American visas are fucking complicated and take a really long time to process. So I'm back in the UK in general, and I'm back in my hometown, essentially. which any of you saw on Twitter earlier. I went to like my favorite pub and walked past a horse and through a whole mystical forest to get there. So I figure instead of having to worry about getting all the way back to where my parents live, which is quite a long way away, I figured I'd just stay in a hotel near the pub, and then I can do the podcast without pissing anyone off, and problem solved. So yeah, I'm back hanging out in my old stomping grounds for a while, drinking all the cider I can fit in my body before I have to go back to fucking America, and all I get is Magnus again. It's not okay.
So now, like 90% of our listeners have no idea what that is.
Magnus is the only cider you ever find anywhere. Sometimes you get Strongbow and Blackthorn, and they're all just terrible, and everyone goes, "Oh, but they're from England, right?" Magnus is Irish, for starters, and that's not any better. But no, it's all just terrible. So I have this. Makes me very happy.
The only cider I ever see is like Red's Apple Ale. Does that not even count?
No, dude, that's ale. It's got it in the name. The hint is in the fucking name. It's called.
It says cider in small print.
Like, that, it's cider.
It's apple.
It's
It's apple cider ale. There you go. That's what it is.
it's a mashup.
I have no words to describe how angry that conversation just made me. No, I mean, yeah, that's where I am. I'm currently here. I'm doing some work. I'm bumming around. I'm actually got a bit of an adventure coming up. I've managed to earn myself about a month's worth of holiday. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of freelance work. But my girlfriend's coming over from America, and I'm going to take her on a UK-wide tour and go to London and go to Scotland and all sorts of other places. So that should be fairly good fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
She's never left the country, so like many Americans. So I get to show her somewhere else.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully with all that crime over there, you two don't die.
Well, okay, so compare it to American gun crime. We've got knife crime. If someone comes at me with this, like a 4-inch blade, I'll just be like, fuck off.
No, it was actually a joke, because we were talking the other day, and you were talking about you were biking 200 miles, and I asked, where do you sleep when you bike 200 miles? And you said the ditch, because it's safe. And I just couldn't imagine that as an American, because I would wake up with like a homeless person licking my neck if I tried to sleep in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, so one of the amazing things I love about talking to Americans is that I can convince them of anything.
Nice, so it's not true.
It's not true. I also convinced my girlfriend that we don't have coffee in America, in England. Sorry, we just don't have coffee. She was like, when I get to the airport, am I going to be able to get a coffee fairly quickly? And I'm like, shit, I don't know if we can do that. I mean, tea's quite a big thing here, but I mean, there's one or two coffee shops, especially in American diners and stuff. I don't really think we can find one. And she was like, what? I mean, I'm gonna need a coffee. This is awful. And I was like, I just don't know if we can do that.
I hate you even more than I already hated you.
Yeah, that seems fair. We should get this rolling along. Matt, what's your current situation, man?
Yeah, so I'm actually on vacation this week. I'm back in my old stomping grounds, actually, ironically enough, in beautiful northwest Indiana.
Is this your old high school room? Because I see your name behind you, and that's kind of weird.
Actually, it's my basement. My mom took all the awards that me and my brother and sister ever won and stuck them on a wall. So I'm kind of, it's kind of a confidence builder being down here. I get to remind myself how awesome I used to be.
So you played real. You
Well,
played real
actually-
football then?
That's actually, are you talking about the football thing?
It's Pee-wee football, actually.
That was actually my brother's. I quit playing football after my freshman year. But enough about my athletic endeavors. I work for Synacor. We provide content portals for telecoms. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm normally in Cleveland, but I get to be here at my mom's with my kids this week, so hopefully they don't come down and take over the episode.
Cool.
You do quite a lot of remote.
Right?
What's that?
Go ahead, Phil.
We were about to say the same thing as each other. So you work remotely, right? How did you end up finding that gig?
I do. I was at Sunshine PHP. I ran into Matt Turland, who was working for Synacor remote also, and I knew I was about ready to make a move from this area out to Cleveland, and Matt had just kind of told me that Cinecor was hiring, and I shot him my resume, and he shot it over, and obviously Chris Harchis works there, and I know Chris pretty well. I know Matt pretty well, so it actually worked out really nice when you can interview somewhere and drop two big names like that. So I was probably pretty lucky that I knew them and that they allowed me to be remote. So.
Yeah, that sounds handy. I know a lot of people try and work remotely. I mean, it's obviously quite a big pool. There's a lot of work going around in America, and every time I say like, oh, my friend's trying to hire someone in New York, and I get 100 people being like, oh, can I work from the middle of nowhere in the UK, or can I work from I don't know, anywhere that's not there? And most companies just don't want it. It's really hard to find that remote work, and I'm not sure what the best way of going about trying to find it is, but it seems like for you it was kind of networking and lucked into a situation. And
yeah, I think obviously when that's a requirement for you, you limit the amount of opportunities that you have pretty considerably. I think you and I had that conversation a couple times, I think, in the past couple of years about, hey, do you want to move to New York City? Do they want to let me work from home?
Yeah, I've tried hiring you twice. I won't do it a third time. After that, you're dead.
But yeah, it seems like it's increasing a little bit more and more companies are kind of becoming at least a little bit more open to it. So like my situation with Cinecor is, I do work remote, but I do they do expect me to come into the office on occasion. So there's kind of a trade-off there. It's within driving distance of my house, so it's not a huge deal, but there's little trade-offs. Most places won't be like, hey, we'll see you for the first week, and then you can take off, and we'll never see you again. We'll only talk to you on Hangouts and team chats or whatever.
Yeah, my last job, I actually never met anyone I worked with. It's kind of weird.
That's good if you work with people you don't like.
Yeah, I worked with Mike Wells, so it worked out really well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nice one.
Just realized,
so the bigger question about your journey, Matt, is what happened to all of our favorite thing, Matt's beard?
Yeah. It's a really good question. So I decided at some point, so it's getting hot out here now, right? It's been up in the upper 80s, lower 90s the last couple of days.
You're complaining because it's in the 80s, Matt?
Hey, we had minus 10, minus 15 degree winters, so don't.
I was in Vegas. It was like 110 yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I noticed you don't have a beard either.
Coming in, just a little.
Oh yeah, I see it. That's cute. But no, so I decided I was going to make a change, and I actually decided I was going to use it as a way to troll my kids because my kids loved my beard. Every time I would suggest that I was going to trim it or shave it, they would like freak out and get really adamant that I keep it. So I was at work and I decided, you know what, they're coming over later. I'm just going to shave it and not tell them. So I did that, and then kind of as I told Phil before we started the episode, I thought I was a lot more attractive, like underneath all that. So it was kind of one of those things where I shaved it and immediately was like, what have I done?
So when you say troll your kids, you actually mean tear away something they love.
Yeah, yes. I mean, be an awful father, yes.
Inciting emotional response is trolling, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah. They're fine. Yeah. My daughter, my new Twitter avatar, actually, my daughter drew for me while we were here. Despite the fact that I haven't had a beard for like a week now, she drew me with a full beard. So
that's
they're
the
probably
one I said you were photorealistic in, right?
Yes, yeah. They're probably fine.
It's very close.
So one thing I've noticed is that actually, Jeff, seeing as you have a bit of a delay, then you might lose the advantage on being able to just jump in with a witty response because we're probably just going to keep on talking over you. So I apologize about that. Stick your hand up is what I'm going to start doing as well. you got something to say, just throw that in there, and we can edit this little fun part out. Um, yeah, so do you want to switch up gears and talk a little bit about the kind of burnout aspect we were talking about? Because I feel like at the end,
You completely skipped me, Phil.
why no one cares about you, Ben?
Apparently.
I don't understand. We can edit that part too. So Ben, tell us more about you.
I'm planning on killing myself tonight because my best friend Phil hates me.
It's not an acceptable thing to say. That's a trigger.
No, so we always say we're gonna edit things, and we haven't edited anything, and so
You should probably edit that.
Yeah, I will.
No, yeah. So I travel around a lot. I recently moved back to Las Vegas. I was in Portland, Oregon for like a year. I've been working remotely for 3 or 4 years now, so kind of take advantage of that and just keep traveling pretty often, and enjoy it. Yeah, had some roommates here, so it's pretty fun hanging out a lot. And it's Vegas, so yeah, there's that. My job, I work for a company called Mindfulware, doing web development, mostly PHP and JavaScript stuff. Working on some Node stuff. Yeah, fun.
Have you won it big on the slots yet?
I've lost it big on the slots.
Wait, so you go to Vegas and play slots?
I usually play blackjack. It's
Okay,
my
all right.
favorite. But yeah, I'm really bad at it. My wife's pretty good at it. She usually wins, but I might as well just flush my money down the toilet. I'm so bad at it.
You should probably just give your money to her and then go and make her a sandwich.
It's true. Way to be sexist, Phil.
I was trying to reverse it. That didn't work out very well. Jeff, what's happening with the old sound there? Just gonna go ahead and mute Jeff for a little while.
I think we lost Jeff.
Yeah. So as soon as Jeff comes back, I do plan on editing this one a little bit. I mean, the video can stay up as is. Probably I might put it down and put it back up again, but there'll be a little bit of stuff going on.
No, I'll make sure the audio gets edited pretty good. This one's kind of rough, apparently.
Actually, I've muted Jeff, but I think he has to unmute himself, and I'm not sure if he realizes he's muted.
There it is.
Yeah, I realize it. I got it.
Okay, you're back.
Yay.
How do you have such horrible connection in San Francisco, Jeff?
Welcome to San Francisco, man. If it's not one thing, it's another.
So
It's
many
not a bad
problems.
Wi-Fi, it's a homeless guy.
Yeah, it's a homeless guy peeing on you or
Licking your face, isn't that what Ben said?
licking your face. Yeah, Ben said that's a crime apparently in America. So
It's not a crime. It's just uncomfortable to wake up to.
it's uncomfortable. Like this is an experience you've had, huh?
Wait.
I mean,
It's uncomfortable to wake up to? It's not uncomfortable at any other time?
I mean, if you're drunk and you're on the strip, you just kind of expect it sometimes. But I mean, when you first wake up,
I don't think I'd
it's
ever
not-
expect that actually.
We need to hang out, Ben.
I'm telling you, come to Vegas, man. We'll get you licked by homeless people by the end of the
You're not doing it for me, I gotta be honest. So anyway, how do you guys feel about talking a little bit about some of the burnout aspects that we discussed earlier? Like, I feel like the end of your episode was a really good way to leave it off, where you were talking about picking up some extra work here and there, and whilst you've got your job, and whilst you'd like to elevate your career to kind of the next level to get to, as Matt put it, like in Cheers, where everyone knows your name, right? That's a great way of putting it. Like, there are various different aspects of picking up, various different benefits of picking up open source work and side projects that include, more recognition in the community, but mostly that warm, fuzzy feeling of helping, of helping make the world a better place, of helping create quality code that people can use, that people can learn from, all of those benefits. But after a while of picking up things like blogging and creating other things, doing podcasts and educating people and mentoring other people, you you kind of find out that you're involved with a lot of things, and that can get to a point when you're like, shit, how do I work out what to keep? How do I keep it all? Do I kill some stuff? How do I work out what to kill? Should I keep trying to do all of it? And how long can I do all of this for? Like, have you guys experienced any of these sort of problems with time management and not knowing what to focus on?
I definitely have. Like right now, between I've got the podcast, I've got some stuff I'm trying to do outside of work. I'm trying to write a book. I've got articles I'm supposed to be writing for PHP Architect. I've got a book club that I run, mentor a few people. So yeah, I definitely sympathize with or empathize with the idea of being overcommitted, and I feel like a lot of times for me I guess the way I deal with it is I look at I actually know that I need to do 15 different things, and so I actually go and physically block out time and try to use that as a way to tell myself, okay, you're doing way too many things. Like, you only have 4 hours after work until something happens. So you're like, I've got these 4 hours and I've got 5 things I need to do, and they all take an hour. Like, what do I cut? So I kind of use that and use that as my priority and say, what do I actually want to do? Like, what is going to give me the most benefit to my career, or what is the thing that's going to make me happiest? And then schedule those first. And if I run out of time, I run out of time. It's just not going to get done. So that's generally how I do it.
So is that the order of things? It's kind of like, obviously your day job comes first, and then it's things that you. How do you order it after that? Because you mentioned a few factors like happiness and money and things like. So it's the day job first, obviously.
Yeah,
it has.
it
And
kind of changes. So it's usually the day job, and then I usually go for the thing that gives me the most satisfaction at the time. So like, it could be money 1 month, or it could be I just really want to do this, so I'm going to put that as my priority. Or it could be I've told someone I'm going to help them out with something. Like I've told someone I'm going to be their mentor or whatever. So that gets a priority because I've now committed myself and said I'm gonna try to help you advance where you want to go. So now I don't want to go back on that. So I push aside something that's just my own personal thing. Like if it's writing or whatever, then I'll push that aside and say that can come later.
No, nobody else has a thing.
Yeah, so I've actually I've been burned out now for, gosh, probably 3 months, where just motivation-wise, haven't really felt like doing anything. Been playing a lot of Xbox, but yeah, no, for me, yeah, generally, right. So I'm kind of the same way. Obviously, the 9 to 5 comes first, and there's that. There's a couple open source. Jeff and I are actually running an open source project for PHP mentoring to make that process of identifying mentors and apprentices and pairing them up a little bit easier. Right now, it's currently in a GitHub wiki that if you want to add yourself to it, you have to edit the wiki and then save it. So we're trying to do that with the podcast. I'm writing a book, and then there's a couple other little open source things that I've been trying to find the time and passion to do. So for me, I typically, and I'm mentoring someone as well. So for me, I try to, I end up focusing more on what I'm doing for other people, right? So if I'm mentoring on a night, that kind of takes priority over anything else. Mostly because I'm not organized enough, and I know if I've made kind of a commitment with someone else, I feel terrible when I just forget, and I do that a lot. I've forgotten meetings and mentoring sessions and things like that. Just like next morning, wake up to a direct message like, "Hey, everything okay?" Like, sorry, dude.
I've done that with multiple podcasts on this show. So
yeah. So I don't know. For me, right now I find so little time to actually do the things that I want to do, that sometimes I'll get to 7 o'clock at night and just be like, you know what, I'm not going to get to do anything I want to do tonight, so why try?
Yeah, man.
It's kind of a sad state to be in because I mean I love what I do and I love being involved in a lot of different things, but I don't know. There's just something right now. It's just like every time I try to get motivated, try to push those buttons to get that mojo back, it just kind of like it's like my brain just goes, yeah, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
all right, fair enough.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, Jeff, like you were saying in the last episode of Loosely Coupled, like you always feel like you're going to have this time in your life when you're going to be free, when you're going to have time to kill, and you're just going to sit around going, what library shall I release today? And then like you're always going to have like this amazing ability to just churn out freelance code, and it just never happens. Like life keeps on happening, and every single time you're like, okay, I've got to get past this next 3-month block, and then I don't have any more conferences, or I don't have any more massive deadlines, or I don't have any more freelance projects to finish off. You always think, oh yeah, I'm going to get this done, and then I'm going to be sorted. And then some other bastard books you in for a conference, or some other thing pops up, or some other asshole tries giving you money for work, and something always just pops up, and you never quite get to that point where you can just actually do some freelance work, where you can actually just kind of, clear out all of the backlog of open source commitments that you have, right?
Yep.
My biggest problem really is just overcommitment, and the only way I've ever recovered from it is like rage quitting everything basically for a little while, and just basically being like, just fuck everything, doing like as little as possible, and then after a few months I'll recover. A couple years ago I practically just rage quit a whole job because of that, and I took like the cushiest job I could, and I did hardly anything for a year. And then I was ready to jump back into things again, basically.
It took you a whole year?
It took me probably about 6 months, really, to be
Man,
like...
That's not encouraging. That means I'm only halfway done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's different for everybody, and depending on, your circumstance. But it took me a while. And then I kind of slowly eased myself.
I think rage quitting would probably not be a very sustainable way to deal with this kind of stuff, right?
Oh, I'm not saying it's correct.
You can only do that like once, maybe twice, right?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting, to anyone watching, I'm not suggesting you go rage quit everything. I'm just saying that's how I've incorrectly handled it in the past.
I mean, to quickly to back Ben up there a little bit, I guess I was talking about this on the last episode we did, but I wasn't the most sober I've ever been when I tried talking about it. But I had a similar problem 2 years ago, 18 months ago, where I went from, for the longest time, my career was all based around like scripts and scraps of random stuff that I was doing. We had income from PyroCMS, I had income from add-ons, I had income from all these random different things, like expression engine modules that I was selling, all this kind of stuff, just stuff happening. And because I was involved in the CodeIgniter team, I was getting CodeIgniter freelance work coming my way all the time. Everyone wanted me to do CodeIgniter freelance work for them, and that was great. Not going to sound complacent about that. I know I was talking about burnout. The last thing I said, I was jovially complacent about, these bastards keep giving me money, but that was all fairly well and good, making a fair bit of money from that and doing various things. But then I got a job. I got a real job, a full-time job, 5 days a week here in New York, being CTO of a startup company that basically didn't exist at the time. I had to launch it, get it running, do everything, build all the fucking code, hire out the team, and do all that stuff. So I tried to quit as much as I could before that job started. I had to quit the CodeIgniter core team, just didn't have time. I was spending 2 hours, 3 hours a day just handling issues, not even writing code, just handling issues. Had to quit Fuel PHP, just again, fucking had to. I basically open sourced as many add-ons and modules as I possibly could. Everything that was paid, I just made it free so the internet could look after it by themselves, just to try and just offload as much of the work as I can in the most responsible way possible. I still had to keep PyroCMS, like it's my baby. I can't just randomly go like, goodbye, I'm done with you today. And I'm gladly still part of it. But it wasn't rage quitting so much, but I had to just clear off my plate as much as I possibly could, because there's no way that you can do that much open source work. You can't have open source be your entire like career and then also have a day job at the same time. You have to kind of pick and choose which is going to pay me the most, and you always kind of have to find what are the most important factors at any given time. I guess it's a constant way up.
Yeah, I mean, I really have tried over the years to be better at saying no to things. Because it doesn't all just happen at once. It's like this slow progression of, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. And 6 months later, you had zero free time. And like just by nature, I don't really care about free time, but it seems like if I don't have it, that's when I burn out, you know? It's like I like the idea of creating things 24/7, but then after a few months of doing that, I don't want to do anything, or I can't bring myself to do anything.
Yeah.
So I really do try to be better at saying no now, but I still slip back into it. You know, there's been several times where I commit to something and then a month later I actually had to go to them and I'm like, hey dude, you know, I know I'd help you with this side project or whatever, but I just really can't do it. I thought I could, but it's not going to be good for me in the long run. And that's a really sucky conversation to have, especially if it's a friend that you told you would help with something. But it's you know, you have to do what you have to do for your sanity.
Well, I know I've found too with this mentoring app that we're working on that I got kind of put in charge of. It was a while ago. I don't remember if I volunteered or if I was volunteered. I seem to remember being volunteered, but either way.
Is that Chris? Did he just make you do it?
No, it was, if I remember correctly, it was Liz Smith. Either way, it's all worked out fine to this point, but this is kind of my first big project that I ever kind of like ran. I was always kind of a guy, hey, I'll commit some code, I'll help you out with this and that. And I was blown away by how much like other work there was. You know, obviously getting started on the project, getting issues in so that if people wanted to contribute, they could. You know, I'd kind of set up this whole. I kind of agreed to do it based on not being the person writing the majority of the code. You know, getting a lot of contributors and getting people involved, and it's a pretty big group and it's a pretty involved group. So I didn't figure it would be that difficult to find people that were like, yeah, really excited about it. It turns out I was wrong by and large, and honestly, I think it was more just because I really sucked at recruiting people. Like, we had some people that kind of came in early, and they did a lot of good work for us, and then kind of just left the project. But I mean, just with the recruiting and with the issues and all the organization stuff, all the all the stuff that I never ever think about and that I'm really, really terrible at really kind of overwhelmed me. And I think, you know, Jeff kind of came in and helped me with a lot of that stuff. So I think without Jeff, I don't know that we would even still have a project.
Aww, you guys.
I know. He's...
Oh. Yeah, I think what you're touching on is kind of an important thing when you're, you know, if you're wanting to get involved in a project. I think we talked about this in our last episode, but if you're going to get involved in a project, especially if you're going to be managing the project, like running the project or whatever, it is a management job. Like you've now got a distributed team of volunteers who are just giving up their time, giving up their free time, and putting you on their calendar or whatever. So you have to remember that that's an even bigger commitment than just writing code every once in a while. So I think that's kind of where it's been an overwhelming task, is you got to lead this project for people that you don't know that they're even out there, right? And you're just trying to make it work for them and make it so that they can actually come in and very easily get started in the project. So yeah, it's a tough thing, but I think it's something that's worthwhile to devote time to if you're so inclined.
That was where I got to with Pyro CMS. I mean, I know, Matt, you've been involved somewhat with contributing to Pyro CMS, and you kind of been in the community a while. That was something that ended up being much more than a very, very brief history of Pyro CMS. I was using it for, you know, client work when I was running a company ages ago, just dev studios, just bashing out website after website after website. Obviously, screw WordPress, right? So I ended up making my own, just so I wouldn't have to use WordPress because that sounded awful. So Pyro CMS was born out of that, and when the company ended up kind of closing down because of the recession and I'm bad at money, I kind of just went, I've got, do you want it? And just kind of gave it to the community, gave it to the open source community at large. Obviously, the instant reaction was, fuck's that. But then after I kind of fixed it up and we got to kind of version 1 kind of place, people started to really like it. And once I got there, I was like, oh, fuck, now I have this thing that loads of people use and that people want to have more features. And so I was kind of just being the main coder for that. And then we had a few more coders, and then I stopped coding. And I was like, oh, now I'm a project manager. Ugh, that sounds gross. And I had to be like project management and HR person and accountant and everything else. And I was like, when the fuck do I get to write more code? And even now, I don't write that much code for it anymore. Other people do most of it, and it's a really weird transition.
I will say though, from my time in Pyro, as far as the contributors for things other than code, like issues and I think Pyro is one of the best communities I've ever seen at people just kind of like doing what they do. Like there was people that would never write code at all, but they'd find a lot of really helpful bugs and put them in as issues and kind of know how to report them. I was always really blown away by that. Like I think the default feeling is kind of like, well, if I can't write code or if I don't know the framework or whatever, I can't really contribute to this project. I would imagine having people like that had to be insanely helpful for you, being the project manager.
I mean, yes, we had some really weird things. I mean, I wasn't trying to kind of hijack the conversation and put it on Pyro, but I guess I have now, so whatever. We had some really weird issues coming in, like, why doesn't Pyro CMS work on Abyss server? And I'm like, I've never heard of Abyss server. Can you maybe send me a pull request to make it work on that? Like, I couldn't tell you. I mean, why doesn't it work in this language I've never heard of? Because I've never heard of it. So that kind of that stuff can happen, and if you have a large enough community of diverse enough users that use different server versions, we had somebody 3 years ago. They were like, why doesn't it work? Why you have this weird bug? And I was like, send me your PHP info, and they had a build of PHP 6.00-dev from 2007 or something. I'm like, well, it doesn't work because you're using a version of PHP that you just fucking imagined. So, like having a like a really diverse range of users really helps you out with that sort of thing. I mean, even if you're not writing code, there's so many useful things that people can do. I mean,
yeah.
Pirate CMS now works perfectly on PHP 6.00-dev from 2007, so that was handy. It works perfect. That kind of actually it leads me on. If you don't mind me kind of moving that along somewhere, it leads me on to something that I wanted to talk about, which was when to pull request or STFU and when to do it yourself. How do you guys feel about a lot of people throw out like just send me a pull request, piss off until you've done it, and some people slave away for days. How do you find the middle ground between those?
A lot of times for me, it's this is a feature that I don't feel particularly passionate about. So like on Ion Off was just my only project that's worth a shit, basically. I wanted to keep it super simple, and I didn't really use a lot of the advanced features. But then someone would suggest something that's I could definitely see it being needed, but maybe I didn't really need it, or I just didn't really care about it. But I could definitely see it being useful. That's when I'd say pull request. But if it's something that like was an actual security issue or something that I really felt I could use or was a really good idea, then I would just go and do it. Also, depend on my schedule. So like if I was super booked for a month, I would say pull request. But if I had some time free, I'd just go ahead and knock it out.
So I was a little distracted there. I saw in the IRC channel hashtag PHP Town Hall on Freenode. IRC Maxell saying that he saw somebody using PHP version 7 before. That's awesome because that doesn't exist.
Yeah, as far as your question about pull requests and fixing it yourself, I kind of agree with Ben. I think, when you have a diverse group of users, right, everyone's gonna have different needs, and if you can justify it being in your project, but yeah, something that you're not crazy passionate about or really want to do, but you would take if someone else did it. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. If there's something that I really thought was going to benefit the project and it was a feature that the majority of my users would want and use, I'd probably do it myself. But yeah, sometimes you get weird requests from people, and at first you kind of go, well, I don't even understand that use case, and then as you think about it more, you go, okay, well, I guess that's something. I guess that's a thing now. Um, I don't know if pull requests or STFU is the best way to go about it, but yeah, I mean, I generally don't deal with that a whole lot because I never release anything.
Is that the answer then? Just don't release anything. You don't have to worry about
Never
answering.
release anything, and then this question doesn't even apply to you.
It's actually a funny
That's
thing
awesome.
because I have to explain to my wife pretty often why do I keep working on these things? She's like, why can't you just fix it and just stop? Like, why not just stay where it is?
Get to the end.
Yeah. She feels the same way about her phone, though. She's like, why is there an iOS 8? There's iOS 7.
It's fine.
But it's actually a really hard question to answer. So, like, because it needs to get better, like, how many different ways can you log into a website, right? I mean, I don't really have the answer, except, it needs it.
Yeah. Sometimes for me it's a bit of a tricky one because I don't know if I'm basically just making myself to be a special case, which is absolutely possible. You guys can let me know if I am. But recently for the last year or two, I've been using a lot of projects that needed to have a lot of pull requests. I've been working with Chef, with Puppet, with all sorts of different Chef and Puppet modules and cookbooks. I've been working with 2 or 3 different frameworks in 2 or 3 different languages. I've been working with a lot of things, and every single time I come across a bug or a feature that should obviously be there, or some sort of documentation thing that needs to be done, I try and send them a pull request, as all good open source developers should. If you notice a problem, you should try and fix it. But I've got to the point now where I'm finding bugs faster than I can genuinely fix them. And as I talked about earlier with the kind of the burnout aspect, there's only so much open source work you can take on before you start to feel crazy. So I already have my own open source commitments, right? I already have to-do lists on my packages. Like Fractal is on 0.8, and I've got a whole bunch of things that I've promised people that I'll implement in the to-do list, and loads of people want various features, and I've got to try and manage the issues, and I've got to manage those pull requests. But at the same time, I've got a to-do list with 10 different pull requests that I have to now do for other people's projects. And I'm trying to get all of those done whilst I'm trying to get all of my own open source work done, whilst I'm trying to somehow make some fucking money, right? And that gets a bit nuts. So it's really weird. Like in the past, I have said to people, pull request or STFU. I used to have a fucking T-shirt that said pull request or STFU, and if they were asking us about it, I just take a photograph of them, just be like, do what my T-shirt says. But recently, I've started to I won't say that I'm never going to say it again. I won't say that I'm ever going to say, hey, maybe you go send me a pull request. And I also understand that everyone's busy. I completely understand that everyone's busy. But recently, I've come across so many things that need to be pull requested. I just can't pull request all the things. I can't fix every fucking open source project on GitHub. It's getting a bit much. And it started to annoy me that pull request or SDFU is now so prevalent that I'm kind of running into those barriers a lot.
Well, you'll never fix all the open source projects with that attitude.
I would draw a line there, though. I truly believe pull request or shut the fuck up is a valid response to a feature request. Now, to a bug request, though, I don't. I love getting bug issues or whatever reported because I can just fix those when I get time, and they're actually things that need to happen. But for features, I'm pretty, I think, pull request or whatever is a pretty good response if you need to. For bugs, though, the people that go and find bugs, I'm pretty thankful for that because I'm a horrible QA tester person, and I know that. So anybody that can help me there is nice.
Yeah, I think my first usage of pull request or STFU was when I was involved in the Coding Lighter core team, and literally every day we'd have 10 to 20 feature requests for just bizarre shit fall in, and it'd be like, why doesn't the Firebird SQL driver have this feature? I'm like, I've never installed Firebird. I'm not going to go and write you that feature. Send me a pull request, and I'll probably just go, yeah, sure, merge, whatever. But like, I'm not going to go and do that for you. I think that's a fairly good way of drawing a line, right? Feature request. If you want it, maybe you go do that. If it's a bug, let me know. If you can, please do fix it. But otherwise, I will try and get that fixed as soon as possible.
Do you guys
Yeah, I think for me it would also kind
on the
of.
topic? Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I would say for me it would also kind of depend on how like the approach, right? Like how someone comes in. So they're asking for a feature. If it seems like they're like demanding the feature or like I need it right now kind of thing, then it's like, well, if you want to prioritize your life, that's fine, but you can't prioritize mine. So send a pull request if you need this right now. That's kind of where I would generally use that is if it seems like something that's not extremely beneficial to anyone besides that one person or like a very small subset of the audience of the project. I would use that as the metric for should I entertain this as something that I should do right now, or is it something that can kind of wait until either this person gets around to it or I do, like just kind of put it in the backlog.
Yes, so we have a question from. I like to give it a little wait just to make sure. I have a question from somebody, Chuck Reeves, on the QA system. It's the first question we have from somebody this week that isn't asking, "Are you actually reading the questions?" Yes, we are. We're just waiting for a good one. The question, the question
It's
is.
not just that they all suck. It's also that they might not be pertinent to what we're discussing. So we're not going to jump topics. Ridiculous.
And it's not that they all suck. It's just that they've all sucked so far. The question was, how do you guys explain open source software to non-tech people? My wife finds it strange that I do work for free. I've had a lot of those conversations. Jeff, how do you go about explaining that?
Yeah, so I actually had a boss a while ago who I told him I was going to go to a conference and go present something, and he was like, "This is complete and total madness to me that you would spend time going out and doing this for free." He was like, he worked in advertising for such a long time, and he goes, "I would never come up with this awesome way to get everyone to buy whatever product I'm trying to sell, and then go to all of my friends or all of my competitors, hey, this is how you do this." And so I kind of took that to be a question of like, why do we do stuff for free? And I think the biggest point for me is just I explained that it's about practice. It's about getting experience in things that you wouldn't necessarily have experience in otherwise, and it's about being able to really explore areas of types of code or types of projects that you would not get to do, like you're not being paid to do this or whatever. So you need an outlet to be able to experiment with things. So that's kind of the main motivation that I would have, and that's kind of why I say it's a useful thing. But as far as like why would you give away stuff for free? I guess it's just it's fun, right? Like it's something that I enjoy doing. So I'm gonna write software whether someone's paying me for it or not. So why not contribute it out to other people so they can use it, and then get that validation or basically get validation that what you're doing makes sense or is useful.
Yeah, there's a couple ways I explain it, and this is something my wife has wondered about a lot too. So there's one way is it's just exposure and it's helping the community. There's a lot that we rely on as developers from people before us, and it's good to contribute back to that. It also keeps you relevant. It's opened up a ton of job opportunities, that sort of thing to me. But also, one way that I think I explained it best was, whoa, Matt, wow, your face is close.
Sorry.
Anyway. So one way I've explained it best, I think, and really relates well, is that you wouldn't think it's weird for an artist to work a day job and then paint at night, because that's their creative outlet. That's the way they they do what they love to do and get out their creative energy. So for me, it's the same thing. It just so happens that I write code during the day too. So actually, the way I explained it to her was a photographer that works at a studio all day taking canned shots, and then at night they go and do like landscapes. Um, and that kind of got the point across, I think.
That's interesting. The question for me has actually come up less. My mom definitely thinks I'm weird for doing the conference thing, so I can relate to what Jeff said about that. Like, why would you just go and do that? And I think, though, kind of touching on what Ben said too, for exposure, I think, and I found this more and more in the past probably 2 years, that getting to know people and networking with people is really, really helpful for your career. So getting involved in projects, being able to kind of show a group of people, even if you never met them in person, that you're capable of doing good work and contributing to a project, and sometimes jumping in on a project that you're not horribly familiar with and still being able to be useful demonstrates a certain skill set that makes you more desirable to employers. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, selfishly, I do it. I justify it by saying it helps my career.
So, as Americans, you guys are all really happy with the concept of communism, right?
Yes.
I often describe it as kind of the best part of communism.
How about socialism, Phil, not communism?
Okay, either one. But I mean,
it's a lot easier to stomach socialism than.
Yeah, Americans are hugely. And if you've seen Animal Farm, the book, and if you read that book,
George Orwell.
Yeah. So that book started off pretty well. It ended up pretty fucking shockingly, because that's just a bunch of shitty pigs were running the situation. But the other pigs were pretty cool. But the way that it kind of works is like, yeah, we all work on stuff. We all have skills that are good at certain things. We all work really hard, and we hone our skills whilst doing our jobs, whilst creating these bits of software, and then we share them with other people so they don't have to worry about doing that. We don't all have to learn how to be butchers, because butchers are butchers, and we can, the butcher does that and this person does that, and we'll just share the benefits of our work. So people like Alex Bilby, he can read off the OAuth 2 spec in his sleep. I was staying at his house, and I'm pretty sure I heard him like talking in his sleep, and it might have been the OAuth 2 spec. Like, he is insanely good at that. And I've been doing a lot of work with APIs recently, and I'm starting to release a few packages, Fractal, and a few other things that help with API development. Everyone's kind of got their skill, got their little thing that they're working really hard on, and we're all just sharing the benefits. So I spent a year and a half for Capture building a crazily large API using Laravel. And obviously, I saved a lot of time using Laravel, so I put time back in by sending him an assload of pull requests. I got like 20, 30 commits into Laravel during that time. I then released Fractal whilst I created Fractal whilst working on that API, and it solved problems that I had, and all of those things kind of came along. So I put the time and effort that I had into giving back to other people, and they gave me code that was useful as well. It's kind of the nice parts of communism. We all work together, and then you kind of have that nice little element of capitalism stacked on top. That's, we've all got this code, we've got the product, then we fucking sell it. Best of both.
The nice part, yeah, I could buy that. The nice part of communism.
Without all the murder.
Right. Yeah. Communism minus the murder.
And much
the
less.
nice part of communism is open source development.
That's how it starts.
Also, I'm really sorry, America. Please do give me that visa. I would love to live in your country, and I'm not a communist, so that's. I'm
sure this praise communist line is going to go well on your visa app.
Oh dear.
Which, by the way, shout out to our buddy Matt Frost right here. He's also pretty good with OAuth too, I hear.
With what?
OAuth. You're writing a book on OAuth, right? OAuth.
Oh, on OAuth. Yeah. I think you said the law. I'm like, I don't know anything about the law.
I didn't want to totally gloss over your OAuth work. And
Yeah.
you're sitting right here. I felt kind of bad.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'd actually like to change gears a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about the mentoring things. Like, sounds kind of interesting, but I really don't know much about it other than you're working on some app.
So you want to know about like the mentoring program or the actual application?
Both.
Both. All right. We'll start with the actual program. So basically, we have a channel on Freenode called PHP Mentoring where a lot of people kind of get together and hang out. And the idea behind it is that people that are looking to kind of build their skills up in certain areas can be matched up with people that are quote unquote subject matter experts in that area, or I mean, in some cases, even just better than you are, and you want to learn it. So we try to facilitate the pairing up of those people through that channel and through kind of that whole branding and organization. I've done it a few times. I'm on my second apprentice now. Most of the stuff I do is test related. But yeah, so it's kind of like, hey, I tend to think of it as kind of like a weird like dating site. Like, hey, so and so, meet so and so.
A communist dating site?
Yeah, communist dating site. And you guys should run off together and mentor. Right? And
I feel like we've insulted the whole gamut tonight. My offensive comments earlier, and then Phil promoting communism.
Hey, I want to be clear, PHP Mentoring does not endorse or associate with communists. But yeah, so we basically just we help pair people up, kind of just by having a common area for people to meet, and then it's kind of up to them to set their own times and schedules and frequencies to have meetings, and I don't know, everybody kind of does it their own way, whatever way kind of works for them. But we do. I'm going to hijack this, Jeff. Sorry. As far as the app goes, right? So when people do get paired up, and we kind of want to track who's with who and who's available and who's not available, so we don't send somebody to a mentor that has like 8 apprentices, right? Like, hey, this person's really good at this, and they have all the apprentices and no one else has any. So we do try to keep track of it, and as I kind of alluded to before, right now we're doing that in a GitHub wiki where people go in and they enter themselves as an apprentice looking for a mentor or a mentor looking for an apprentice. And then we keep another section at the bottom of people that are currently paired up. It was fine when it was like 8 people, but now if you go in there, there's a lot of people looking for mentors, and there's a lot of mentors looking for apprentices. So what we're basically trying to do with the application is kind of allow these people to create profiles and set the skills that they want to learn and the skills that they feel capable of teaching, and then kind of allowing people to search for them and at least get in contact with people that they know kind of meet their requirements for what they're trying to learn. Because what's pretty typical is people will come in and go, help, I need a mentor. And you go, okay, well, what do you want to learn? And they go, everything. You're like, well, look through the list and see if there's someone that mentors in everything,
How do I come?
They want to learn PHP, dude.
What's that?
How do I PHP? Will you mentor me in PHP 7?
Actually, that's a question. Do you get a lot of that? Because I know even as running open source projects, I'll get a lot of, hey, how do I use PHP because I want to use your library? And I'm like, come on, I could help you use my library, but I can't teach you to use PHP for 2 years so you can eventually use my library.
Yeah, I think we used to get a fair amount of that. It wasn't worded quite that way, like, how do I PHP? It's more people like, I've been playing with PHP for 3 months, and I've I can do kind of some basic stuff and I want to kind of take that next step. Can someone help me learn everything so that I can take that next step? What we try to encourage people to do is come in with a specific kind of goal or set of skills that they want to learn. Like, hey, I really want to get better at object-oriented PHP. Okay, well, there's X, Y, and Z people that do the design patterns and the architecture stuff, and go talk to them. But yeah, generally it's like when we press people for what do you actually want to learn, what are you actually trying to improve, they just kind of go, I don't know. You go, well, until you know, we can't really help you unless somebody wants to take that person on. It's kind of up to them, but generally the more focus you can get on what you're trying to learn, the easier it is to find a mentor.
Now, if I wanted to sign up as a mentor or a mentee, what kind of time commitment am I looking at?
It really, it's up to you. It depends. It's kind of an agreement that you set up with whoever you pair up with. It could be weekly, bi-monthly, monthly, whatever kind of works for you. You're donating your time to help someone for free, basically. So to set an across-the-board limitation on, well, you have to meet weekly or a set amount of time, kind of devalues that I don't want to call it a sacrifice, but that time commitment that you're willing to make.
Now, is it like structured or how do I put this? So like I could totally see just being like, here's my IM info, contact me, like when you need help with things here and there as you learn, or is it more like, an hour a week on Skype kind of thing? Or
Here's my home address. Here's my home address. Just show up whenever you feel like it. Yeah.
I've got a guest room.
Whoa. Because I like the idea of it, but I'm, like we talked about earlier, I'm pretty prone to being burnt out, and so I would be afraid that I would overcommit myself by signing up.
So I've been pretty fortunate, just in the sense that when I've actually mentored and when I've been mentored, I've kind of seen a whole bunch of different styles. Like when I was when Chris Hartjes was mentoring us, he wanted to have Skype calls a week, and I found that really, really helpful. And the first person that I mentored, we started out for probably the first year just doing it over IM. He would ask questions and we just kind of IM, and then we later moved to Hangouts. But then I've had mentors that have just been like, yeah, if you've got a question about something, email it to me. And it just kind of depends at the level of the apprentice, how much hand-holding they need with certain things. If you say, like if you go in and you say, okay, I want to mentor in this, and someone approaches you and says, okay, can we have a call every week, and that doesn't work for you, then you're maybe not the right person to mentor that person. They need more than what you can provide them.
What happens if you start mentoring somebody and you realize that they're a dick?
That's up to you.
What happens? You sign up and you get Phil Sturgeon.
Yeah. So if you sign up and you get Phil Sturgeon,
you win a prize.
Yeah.
You win a free cider.
Yeah.
That's got to be quite awkward, right? If you sign up to agree to help somebody, and that was kind of a silly question, but if the relationship doesn't really work out, like can you back out? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything once you kind of make that, really all the organization does is just kind of facilitate people meeting each other, and if you find, because of time constraints or personality conflicts that you're not the right person to help that person, I would just suggest being honest about it and just being like, look, dude or girl, this isn't working out. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm having a really hard time. I don't feel like I'm getting through to you. Maybe suggest them some other people with maybe a different personality or different kind of demeanor.
So if you get a dick, just refer them to Phil Sturgeon.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
One of their own kind.
I have a great tolerance for assholes, as we've seen on the internet.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I mean, some people just have more patience.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of depends. The more honest you are up front about kind of where you're at, you know, the tendency I think for people is to want to be better, farther along than maybe they really are. And you may find out once you start, and you're expecting them to be at this level, and you do your first session, and you find out they're actually not anywhere near the level that you thought they were at. I mean, if you have the patience to get them to where they need to be, then great. And if you don't, I mean, I've never had a bad experience with it, so. I mean, not to say that they don't happen or that they couldn't happen, but I think the fact that we put a lot of the onus on the apprentice to find a mentor, so we don't. Typically, people come in and say, "Hey, I need a mentor," and they expect like 8 people to jump in and be like, "Yeah, I'll mentor you," and that's not really how it works. We tend to say, you know, look at everybody, what they're teaching, you know, people that maybe you've seen on Twitter or you've seen their GitHub profile, and you know, approach them privately. And see if it would be a good fit. So we do tend to put a lot of the onus on the person looking for help, and try not to open it up, you know, as a free for all for everyone that needs help to come in and have 8 people jump on their request.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was having a conversation with a few people recently actually, where this kind of same thing has come back, and it ties into a few of our conversations where recently I've been feeling overwhelmed with the number of contributions that I would like to be able to make to existing open source projects, where like I have feature ideas, or I've noticed like lacking or inconsistent functionality, or I've noticed bugs or any of these problems, and I feel like I can't do it all myself. And that's been a problem, and obviously burnout comes into that, where I could do it all myself if I can cope with doing 24 hours of programming a day. All of those things kind of, to me, in my head, come back to it would be great if I could help with mentoring, so I could kind of help raise more people that know how to do this stuff, so that then they can help with the stuff. It's like, instead of trying to do everything by myself, maybe, you know, coach some more people and help them do it. But then that obviously is even more of an investment of time, so I can do even less of the same things I'm trying to do. So it's a constant, like, vicious cycle of like, do I do everything? Do I do some of the things? Do I do none of the things and help other people do all of the things? What do I do? Help me! And then I just go to the pub and forget about it all. But it definitely seems like a really worthwhile cause. I'm just trying to work out if it's something I could ever really hop on with, because I've got a lot of shit on my plate.
Well, it's like in that case, it's like a big upfront investment for a future payoff.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to be able to justify that in your own mind, like, yeah, I could teach so-and-so how to do this, but I could just go in and do it. Yeah. And maybe I'll get burnt out, maybe I'll overextend myself a little bit, but I can't wait.
And the other downside is, what if I train up all these people to help, you know, go out there and PHP like the pros, and then they all decide to become WordPress core contributors? What have I done to the world in that scenario?
Well, we actually have a jail that we would throw you in. We would throw you in jail.
Is there a group on mentoring for jail? For just assholes?
For jail? There's been some people that are just obviously trolls that have come in that have been kick banned and stuff from the channel, but it's not been a real serious problem from what I could tell.
All right, so what's the channel and what's the website if someone wants to sign up to?
Okay, the channel is PHP Mentoring on Freenode, and then the website is phpmentoring.org. And then if you want to get involved with the application, which, you know, the idea behind that, one more thing I'll say about that since I'm trying to get more people, is we actually wanted to kind of use that project as an opportunity for mentoring. So kind of a little bit looser pairing, kind of with multiple people, you know, a group of people getting to do things that maybe they don't do normally at their day job, or, introduce people to some technologies that they may not be familiar with. If you want to look at that, that's on GitHub under PHP mentoring. So if you search for PHP mentoring, you'll see the Mentor app, and we had a really creative name for that. And you can get involved there. You can fork it and start issuing pull requests, and we all kind of hang out in the Freenode channel. So
Sweet.
That's really cool. Now, what are your kind of goals with the app, though? Like, you mentioned working on it a lot. What do you need help with? Anything you can solicit to the community? How do you help me with this?
My goal is to get it done. Yeah, it's just been more time of me coding than I think we anticipated originally. We're using Backbone, and I think a lot of the back end stuff is done. So if you're like a front end whiz or a Backbone type person, that's kind of where we're at now with needs. We just really so it's a API driven site. So we've got the API basically done. Kind of like read Phil's book halfway through it. So Phil might hate it.
Until you got tired of all the Britishisms?
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is he even talking about?
What's a crisp?
There are far too many U's in that book. There shouldn't be quite as many U's for you Americans, but
yeah,
just how it works.
Well, yeah, you and the Canadians.
I apologize.
So if there was anyone left that we hadn't offended yet, the Canadians handled the rest.
I don't think we've covered Mexico yet.
You've covered Mexico plenty, Phil. History.
Wonderful. I actually there's two questions on the panel here, and Jeff, I know you've got some troubles. I think you're mostly just on a delay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw you a question, and then we're all going to just wait for Jeff to get the carrier pigeon, and then he can answer.
It's not the connection. He takes a very long time to think through his answers.
That's good. I take zero time and just spout things out, and that causes problems for everyone. So I'm glad that we have a reserved guest. Well, not a guest, a co-host. We're all co-hosts this week.
Thanks for being a guest on the Loosely Coupled podcast this week, Jeff. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. I've always wanted to be a guest on my own podcast.
Yeah. So the question we have is from Davey Shafik.
Was that the question?
Hold on. How do you say that name with a proper British accent?
Ben and Jeff, the question is shut up. I'm going with Davey Shafik. I don't know if that's how it works.
Actually, I think it's
Shafik
name, right? Shafik.
I legitimately I don't care.
I think you pronounce it Shafik.
This is how much I care. This is how much I care. None. The question is.
Hold on. We could kill 10 minutes here.
I'll kill you. The question is, as a contractor, how do you feel about OSS, open source software clauses, that your work can and will be open sourced in contracts? So I guess that means, I'm reading this and trying to think at the same time. So I guess you do some paid work, some contract work, and then they get to open source it afterwards. I guess that's the question. Shout at me on IRC if that's not what you meant, Davey. Have any of you guys ever come across that, where like you're being paid to work on something and they plan on open sourcing it afterwards? Does that cause any problems? Do you maybe charge less, or do you charge more? How do you deal with that?
So for me, since you were originally going to ask me, I guess, for me, I wouldn't really have a problem with that, especially considering that I contribute to open source software anyway. So like personally, I wouldn't really think that's a big problem. I guess it would also kind of depend on what exactly I was doing, but I think that's fine. It doesn't really matter to me where or if my code gets open source. Like I worked for Sugar CRM for a while, and their whole thing at the time was their commercial open source, or they may still be doing that, I don't know, but essentially it is a commercially licensed product, but there's an open source version as well. So a lot of stuff that I did on the lower levels of the application was open source anyway, but it was my day job at the same time. So I was working for them and open sourcing it. So I don't see that as a big, as it would just depend on the situation. And if I was working on something that I didn't really want open source, yeah, I would definitely jack up my rates. But I do that for anything that I don't necessarily want to do.
Matt, have you ever run into that?
Not really.
Well, that's easy.
Shortest answer.
I'd run into the opposite of this, where someone contracted me to build something that could be easily open sourced. And the approach I usually take is if it was something I actually gave a shit about open sourcing, and I would keep it under my brand would be I would offer them half off of the time that I spent writing it. So, for example, working with Shoe and Forshaw, which I know you've done as well, Phil. There's been a few cases where there's some library he needed, and so I'd say, hey, I'll build this, but I'll do it half off if you let me open source it, basically. And that's actually been pretty nice because it's basically like you're getting paid to open source stuff, even though it might not pay as well. It's a win-win for both of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done the same thing. I mean, it's been with random coding meta libraries that I've released. I think I can't remember the name of any of them though. Just for API wrappers and stuff like that. But the same with PyroCMS features. If someone has quite a lot of the work that I used to do for PyroCMS used to be, we need a website that does X, Y, and Z, and I'll be like, cool, PyroCMS does X and Y out of the box, but Z, it doesn't do that yet. And if it's not something that would fit in as a custom module, and it has to go into the core, then I'd say, all right, I'll charge you full rates for X and Y, but Z will have to be, I'll have to charge you for it. But once that's done, that will be in PyroCMS, so I'll do it for half price. Or if it's a feature I really, really, really want, I might do it for free, or I might do it for like 20% of the cost. Like, it depends on how much I want to do that. I've never come across a client that went the other way, where they said, like, we are going to pay you loads of money and then we're going to release it for free. Like, I've never had that, but I've many times I've had people say, like, oh, well, this is something that you might be able to open source, so maybe we could pay you less. And I'll be like, yeah, totally, pay me less. I'll just release it, and then other people can use it, and I can use it on my next project. I'd much rather get paid 20%, half the amount, and then be able to use it in my next project and hundreds of projects afterwards than one jackass just goes, we own this, you can never make anything else like this. If you make code that's even vaguely similar, we own that too, I hate you. So, yeah, it can work out pretty well sometimes. Sweet. How are we doing on
Sorry,
time?
I think we all got distracted by Jay McCullough sending a gif of Matt Frost doing a deal with it, but with like 40 different sunglasses coming down his face. If you're not in the IRC channel, it's PHP Town Hall, no spaces, on Freenode. It's a fun time.
That's for everyone. The last question I think we should, because it's probably getting close to time, is we have a question from Taz Schnitzel. I'm going to go with Taz Schnitzel. I assume that's his name, or her name. The question is, how do you deal nicely with somebody who is too reliant on you for solving problems and is too quick to ask you rather than figure it out themselves? So this is the person that worked out you're a nice person and you're ready to help, and now you're their Google. How do you kind of separate yourselves from that, Ben?
I'm sure this makes me a really shitty person, but I usually just ignore them for about a week and see if they figure it out in that time. And if they haven't figured it out in a week, I figure it's worth me helping them. But, they usually figure it out within a week.
In the meantime, their entire company has just gone down the shitter just because you couldn't be bothered to reply to an email. You're a terrible person, Ben. I don't know how you live with yourself.
Now, if they want to pay me, I will respond to every stupid-ass question you want to ask me.
I have done that once or twice. I was like, actually, this is quite a complex subject, and I'm pretty sure we could cover it in a 1-hour Skype consulting session. Here's my rates.
Oh, dude, yeah, I've done that like flying off. People are like, "Hey, how do I make this do that?" And I'm like, "That's outside the scope." But for X dollars an hour, I would be happy to add that to your custom version, sir.
That's a good question though, because there are, especially when you're on IRC, there does tend to be people that sometimes will wear you out. Just ask you everything under the sun, and once you get past that, like, oh, I'm being really helpful, and I'm going to get this person to this point, and then they're going to leave me alone, and then they don't. Um, I don't know. I think I know I've done it a few times. I've done your thing a few times where I'm just like, la la la, can't hear you. Um, but sometimes too, I'll just be like, look, I'm happy to help you. I've got limited time, and I know that you really want to learn this, but there's resources that you should read and look at and really try to understand before you start coming to me or anyone else, just with a machine gun full of questions. It's kind of like when it's become obvious that they're asking questions about things that could very easily be found by even someone with like no Google foo whatsoever. I tend to try to say it as nicely as I can, but like, hey, you need to, we're giving you our time here to try to help you out. You need to do some of the legwork and not just rely on us or me or that person or whoever it may be to answer everything for you.
I had somebody on the IRC channel for Laravel the other day, about a week ago, and it started off, they were saying like, what's better, Laravel or Ye? And obviously everyone was like, shut up, go away. And I kind of like, I had a bit of time. I was waiting for a book chapter to process. I was waiting for something slow, provisioning, and I was just like, fine, fuck it, I'll take this one on. What is it you're trying to find out? Are you trying to evaluate the two projects? What are your requirements for the project? What sort of functionality do you require? Do all of these things have to work out of the box, or can you add in other components? Like what's going on here, basically? And he started off asking one or two fairly interesting questions, and it was like, how many platforms does the database package support? And I was like, okay, only 4 in MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, Microsoft. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he kind of went through a few other questions, and then it was like, does Laravel have validation? I'm like, yeah, go to docs/validation. Does Laravel have auth? Yeah, go to docs/auth. Does Laravel have? And I was just like, oh, I'm gonna fucking punt. And it went on for like 5 minutes, and eventually I was just getting so mad, because it wouldn't stop. And I was like, fuck! Now I've created this monster. As Anthony Ferreira just put it in IRC, I've created a vampire. And he was just sucking the life force out of me, and he sucked all of the nice, willing, good intention out of me, and I just wanted to punch him in his stupid face. And it gets a bit frustrating.
You mean you don't start off every day wanting to punch people in the face?
I start off really nice. I have a certain amount of nice energy, and that just goes throughout the day, and it depends who I bump into on my daily routine, or if I bump into someone that I hate on the high street, like earlier tonight. That was weird. I have a certain amount of nice, caring energy, and it kind of degrades. And then after a certain number of stupid tweets and a certain number of fucking idiot interactions with business or anything else, I just go full Hulk, and I want to smash. And sometimes it's Reddit, sometimes it's Twitter, sometimes it's just I'm at the pub and I've had a bad day. But some people really made me want to fucking punch him. It's But yes, to wrap that up, yes, it can be really difficult once you've started helping somebody. They're on that teat, as it were, and they will not get off, and you just have to cut them off. However that is, but with money barrier, politely referring them to some documentation, sending them a "let me Google that for you" link, saying "fuck off."
Yeah. I mean, I know I try to be as pleasant about it and hope that they get the hint, like, because a lot of times I'm on IRC, it's during work, and I'm kind of in and out, and if I get stuck into one of those kind of vampire conversations, it's like I've got other stuff that I've got to do, and taking 15-20 minutes to answer things that you could very easily be Googling isn't really high on my list of things to do. So yeah, I try to be pleasant, and then I guess if it just continues, I tend to just get more firm and try to end it as amicably as possible. But sometimes that's not a possibility.
Yeah, Matt, that's something that the same tasty schnitzel is apparently how I say the name. It's just said as a follow-up, is permanently blocking them on your IM client morally acceptable in this case? I don't think morals really fall into it. I think that it might be shooting yourself in the foot. I think sometimes people are really, really frustrating, and in some cases I've had to block people just because they won't fuck off, and every single day they're asking me more and more and more and more and more, and they're blowing up my phone, and they're doing my head in. And in that case, I have no qualms with blocking them. If someone's just having a bit of a hard time and they haven't quite worked out how to Google things, or they're not confident enough to go and find things out, then I wouldn't suggest blocking them, because give it 6 months and that person might not still be in the same position, and they might be quite smart, and they might be able to help you on some things. I've had situations where someone's come running at me asking all sorts of dumb questions. I've ignored them for a while, and then chatted to them later on, and I'm like, oh fuck, I didn't actually realize that. That's awesome. Like they've taught me something. So I don't think you should block people, but definitely don't let them make your life hell. No, worth that.
I would say if you've made it kind of clear to them, right? Because there's kind of that fine line of someone being annoying and it kind of turning into abuse might be too strong of a word, but something similar to abuse, where you're like, okay, I told this person 5 times that I can't do this, and they keep pestering me and they keep asking me, question after question, and they're just not respecting the fact that I don't have the time to do this. I guess this is maybe one situation where I might be quicker to block someone than you, Phil.
that's controversial.
Phil's actually pretty quick. To put it in perspective, before we could start the podcast today, Phil had to figure out how to unblock me from Google because I couldn't join the Hangout because I was blocked.
To be fair, I didn't block you. PHP Town Hall blocked you. It's a different account. It's nothing to do with
the entity that is PHP Town Hall blocked me.
That's some advice I got from Chris Hartjess. He said block early, block often.
Yeah.
He said that to me a few times. Like he keeps pointing out that it's not my job to be twat whisperer. Like I see two people on the internet that I might respect. I'm not going to mention any names, but I see 2 people arguing with each other, and I try to mediate because I can understand both sides to what they're saying, and I can see what he meant when he said that, and what they said when they said that, and I try and resolve the situation. And I just get into this massive argument where they're both shouting at me. It's like the guy that tries to break up a fight that's just getting punched from both sides.
Yeah.
And the number of times he's just been like, it's not your job to try and fix every argument on the internet. So when someone's arguing with me and I think like, oh, you're just too dumb to even insult, like whenever that happens, I block them. Whenever I see stupid people arguing, temporary block, use whatever your client does. TweetDeck, I think, does that. It just kind of mutes them for a while.
Them, yeah.
There are 2 people in my life who I won't name that I've blocked in the last 3 months that have noticeably made my entire life better. Just blocking those 2 people on a day-to-day basis, I walk about an inch higher. I'm just that much fucking happier with life. So every now and then,
I was one of those people.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was Ben.
But every now and then, a block can really help you. It's just like deleting somebody off the internet. It's like having them killed without the messy consequences.
Without going to jail.
I'm never getting.
Without the FBI checking your coin logs.
I find I don't have to block people. On Twitter and stuff, I find that I've rarely had to block people. Maybe
I block people on IM. I rarely block people on Twitter. I'm pretty vocal. Like, here's my email, here's my IM, get in contact. And so I tend to get a lot of just bullshit there. So I'll block people on IM, but I rarely do on Twitter.
I don't seem to find myself in the same kind of conversations though that you and Chris do, Phil. You guys get into really animated discussions with people at times.
Yeah.
I've not mastered how to do that yet.
Yeah, it's a weird one because most of the time on Twitter, you're probably agreeing with each other. You just can't tell, and that's why I've kind of got bored of it. Like me and Anthony don't have those arguments anymore because whenever we did, like a few times we met up for a beer afterwards, and we'd be like, oh, I meant this, and he'd be like, oh, I meant that, and we'd be like, oh yeah, we both agree. Like half the time it is just Twitter, and it's really frustrating that like you can get on really well with somebody in public, and you can just talk to them over a beer and have like really interesting chats, and even if you don't agree on everything, like you both learn and you both adapt and you're both better. Whereas on Twitter it's like I hate you, I never want to talk to you again, shut up, you're an idiot. Like it just degrades so quickly that you just hate them because you can't really get any sort of sense of what's happening from them. It's just I disagree with that little string that you just said, so therefore you're wrong. It's weird that Twitter and people are that different. So I'm going to try and not argue on the internet. It's my new thing. It's trying to avoid this.
Stay off Reddit then.
Phil Sturgeon not arguing on the internet.
I've blocked Reddit from my host file.
Wow.
You've changed.
Yeah. It's just not constructive for me anymore. I blew a fuse the other day. I got so angry with a bunch of people. I posted about PHP women. The podcast we did, episode 25, was covering PHP women, and it was some for and against arguments of the way that the group it was a very open-ended conversation, but one of the aspects of it was about how PHP women is just for women, and it's not. It's kind of a marketing thing that's kind of tricky for some people to understand. But the name of PHP women is kind of makes people think it's just for women, and of course it's not. So this person wrote a blog article. It was a guy who wrote the article that explained that PHP women helped him out and got him a ticket to a conference he never could have got to otherwise. So I posted that on Reddit because I thought that would be a very useful thing for Reddit to see. I've seen a lot of people complaining about how PHP women is just for women. It's not. So I posted that article, and loads of people replied to that article saying, "Oh, the thing I hate about PHP women is that it's just for women." I was like, "You didn't read the article, did you? You obviously haven't read the article." And even though I was saying, "Go and read the fucking article," they were like replying, being, "Oh yeah, no, and I mean I had a quick look, but I just hate the fact that it's just for women." I was like, "Read the fucking article, you absolute clown! You're a waste of fucking space." Like I just was so angry. It didn't help that I've been drinking, but I just got fed up with it. Like you can't battle that level of ignorance. You can't fix it, and I don't even know why I was trying. Like why is it my job to try and fix dumb? It's not.
Nope.
Yeah. So two things on that. Like when I first saw PHP women, I kind of had that same reaction. Like, why is there a group only for women? Like, I thought we were all about like including everything and like being inclusive. And so I did something really shocking, and I went and I found somebody who was involved in it and asked them about it. Right. So I went and found out the answer to the problem that I thought I saw with this thing first before I saw it was a problem. And then the second thing, to your point about like is it like arguing on the internet or like trying to I guess shepherd people into understanding something? I think that's really a prime way to burn yourself out. It's like really get to that rage quit point. Is just it's okay if some people don't get something. It's okay if they don't read something. Like you just put it out there, and it's going to help somebody. And that's like kind of where I look at things. Is if I helped one person with whatever I had to say, that's great. If 50 people didn't get it because they had their own preconceived idea of how something exists, then that's their problem. It's not really mine. So I tend to try to not let stuff like that bother me. So that kind of ties back into blocking and everything you were talking about earlier, where I don't tend to block that many people. I've blocked a few people just out of sheer annoyance with things that they've said, but I try to look at things as minimal or as like the minimal impact, like or like what can I actually do to provide some impact in somebody's life. So if it's 2 people, great. If it's 2,000 people, even better. But I don't worry about the 15 people that dislike it, because they're always going to be there, or they're just trolling. So not a big deal.
So I didn't really get a chance to talk about this earlier, and I know it's getting a little bit late now, but I did kind of want to talk about some of this stuff, and it was kind of, free psychiatric help maybe, but like I wanted to get into maybe why I argued, just to see if anyone kind of gets the benefit out of this, because I feel like I had a real epiphany over the last couple of days, and and I had like an insight into myself, like into my psyche about some shit, and it was a bit, and I was like, why have I been doing all this? And I feel like kind of with me, the arguing always felt like there was a point, like there was a way to help solve a problem, and that problem was always different. It was things like in the Code Igniter community, there was always a lot of people that would get bent out of shape over something that was actually good news, but they couldn't quite understand why it was a good thing, right? Like when the new documentation system came in, they were freaking out about how they'd have to install Python on their web servers to run the Sphinx system. I was like, no, you only have to install Python to run the documentation generation. You don't have to install Python on your servers. So I'd get involved in these kind of like clearing up FUD conversations. And if I saw somebody out there saying, this thing is true when it was wrong, I'd be very concerned that that person would be going around spreading misinformation, and it would then fall into my interests to turn that person's opinion around so that he'd then become a representative of the truth, and he'd help make my job easier because he would be explaining the true thing instead of the bullshit thing. Because the number of people I've seen that go around, they read this FUD and then they spread it off themselves, that makes shit really difficult. So for me, it was always like, if I can convince these people to stop actually being like literally wrong, it was never like arguing opinions. I think A and you think B, therefore I'm right because fuck you. It's always, this is factually, legitimately what's happening, and you're saying the opposite of that, and you're actually causing a problem. I feel like that I was capable of doing that when it was just the Code Igniter community I was addressing. When it was just, Code Igniter users and I knew what was right and they didn't necessarily know, I felt like I could easily kind of write a blog post and fix it. And there'd be a few people that go, oh, and then I'd reply to them and then it would be fixed. But then recently I kind of grew into the general PHP community, not just Code Igniter, the general PHP community. And then there were things like the Fig, and I got involved in internals, and there were all these other aspects of the community that I got into. And I realized that I was just trying to take on too much of an argument. Like, there are always going to be those people, you can't help everyone learn what's actually happening, right? And then that just led to burnout, and I was like, why don't you fucking people listen? I don't know, it was, maybe I lost my point in there somewhere, but does that make any sense to people, like why I was trying to argue?
Yeah, I think I understand it, I just don't think I have the same need to make people right that you do. So like, I see someone being wrong, and I'm just like, fuck them, Whereas you feel like I need to teach them why they're wrong, basically. That seems kind of similar to what Anthony went through recently, where he kind of rage quit PHP mailing list, right? It seems like a similar path to me. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I kind of have the approach where I will happily tell you once, or I'll like happily tell you why what you're doing is wrong or whatever, or why I think what you're doing is wrong once, and then it's up to you at that point. Like, I'm not going to continually try to information that I see about something. If I've said something once, I don't really have that need to constantly correct people or think that everyone has to think the same way that I do. But yeah, if it's blatantly wrong, like if it's something that's obviously factually incorrect, I would just point it out in a very public place and point that person to it or whatever.
That's hilarious. I'm watching Ben in the corner just eating something horribly. He's just shoving food in his face. No, absolutely.
I'll jump in here and I'll say, so I was that person a long time ago, right? Kind of, I can relate to everything that you're saying. At the time, it wasn't so much with like technology and stuff, but it was just kind of the way I was wired. Like, I knew the right answer and somebody was giving the wrong answer, or really anything. I mean, social etiquette, things like that. Like, I used to fight a lot, believe it or not, and be really loud and be really argumentative. And I would, 10 years ago, I would be getting into those same kind of loud conversations with people and end up, blocking them or calling them a name. So as someone now, 10 years later, kind of on the other side of that, I know for me it was like, I got to a point where I saw what I was doing was destructive for myself. Like, I wasn't really all that concerned about the people I was trying to help, but I was just like, I'd find that I'd get into a conversation like that, or I'd get into a fight or something, and then I'd come home and be with my family, like the people I'm supposed to care about, and somebody would do something, mildly annoying, and I just fly off the handle. I just became like a rage monster, like all the time.
Mm.
And so I really worked on correcting that, and I got like so far over to the other side now, where like if someone's wrong, I tend to have a lot more patience, and I found at that point it's really easy to kind of get taken advantage of.
Mm.
So I was way over here, now I'm way over here, and now I'm kind of trying to find myself a little bit back into the middle where I could get upset about things that I really care about, that really require me to get upset about, and kind of everything else just try to reply as nicely and as be as friendly about it as I can, and then if it doesn't work from there, then just kind of either block them or get rid of that conversation. But I found that I kind of overcorrected.
I can see that. I can see that being a problem, and that actually sounds exactly like the story of Ed Finkler. I first heard about him kind of addressing his angry internet problems, where he would just kind of put up with a lot of shit, and then eventually just Hulk smash on somebody for no apparent reason. It could be like somebody close to him in his life, and he'd just freak out at them, and he'd be kind of shit to people around him, and that was terrible. But it's a weird one for me because the difficulty is it's not. There are a couple of Jeff. I'm sure. Something you said was like, I don't feel the need to be right, and for me it's a weird situation because I also don't feel the need to be right. It's more that I hate other people being wrong, and it's never about opinions. Literally, to use an example, if someone's running around saying the world is flat, then I will start off politely explaining that the world is actually round. Then eventually, if they keep on saying it, I will eventually get frustrated, and eventually I want to hit them. You know what I mean? That really does my head in, but I think that's my biggest problem is that I don't like other people being wrong. It's not that I have to be right myself, because it's not to do with opinions. It's like if something is backed up by science and numbers and facts. The same way you do when I'm not sure about something, I go and ask the person who's involved. So recently there's been a string of articles about PHP Next Generation. People don't really know what it is. They don't know what they're talking about. They've been releasing articles on phpclasses.org and sitepoint.com. They both released articles that were full of shit information, just actually flagrantly wrong, flagrantly factually wrong. And the trouble is, hundreds of thousands of people saw that article, those two articles, maybe like 100,000, right? I've looked at the numbers for my visa. They've been helping me out. A lot of people look at those, and a lot of people are then getting shit, factually incorrect information. So I took half an hour out of my day to write a big article to Bruno over at SitePoint, and I helped him correct his article. So that was one of those situations where actually kind of arguing really did help the situation because I actually solved it. I've still got to write a much larger email to Manuel Limos explaining how his article was flagrantly wrong about everything. But again, that's something I have to take time out of my day to fix the situation. And it's an argument, but it's because they are factually wrong, and it's not an opinion. And it's stuff like that makes it difficult for me because there have been so many times where I've had these arguments because I am right, and it's not opinions. It's I'm right. It's because I've had so many of these things where I actually have kind of solved a problem that I can't stop, and I get this fucking superhero cape on my back where I'm like, ta-da-da, Sturgeon to save the day. I'm going to tell you what's left. And it's just a really stupid situation that I can't stop doing because I've had some successes. I now have to try and every single time I'm like, that's not correct. Let me help. And it's a really weird thing that I can't stop doing.
Now, do you think that's like? Do you think that's more for you or more for the people? Like, is it not trying to be an asshole here, but is it more the ego builder or is it more the like a white knight kind of thing?
I genuinely don't know. It might be. I think my ego's gone wild over the last year with being invited to a bunch of conferences, and my career skyrocketed, and now I'm back in the UK. People are inviting me to shit left, right, and centre. So I think
You
ego.
are very sexy.
Just look at this face. I'm wearing a V-neck. Who doesn't want me? It might be ego, but it also, in a lot of ways, is that I fucking hate misinformation. I really like if me and my friends have a confusion over something, like if they walk away thinking I meant something that I didn't mean, like my words portrayed my feelings wrong, and I realized that later, like I'll obsess over that. So I think it's part of my personality that I fucking hate misunderstandings. So whenever someone like publishes an article and that misunderstanding is going out to 100,000 people, that fucks me right off. Like it's more like an OCD thing than a I have to prove how right I am to everyone thing. At least I hope. I think. I couldn't tell you, I guess.
I think that's valid. I think the only, at that point, like if something is factually wrong, yeah, that kind of stuff bothers me too, especially when it's like that situation where you're like, no, I know that you're absolutely wrong about this. And I think part of the thing that's kind of helped me over the years, like I used to be pretty fired up about if someone said something was absolutely wrong, I would correct them, and like I will correct you until you understand that you're wrong. But after I got married, that was kind of when I learned the skills around, like, I'll tell you the right answer. I'll tell you what is true right here, and then you do with that information whatever you want. But eventually, you're going to figure out that I was right, and that's fine. So that's kind of where I learned that skill of just, hey, I've done something, so or you're saying something wrong. I'm just going to put out the information that's right, point you to it. If you don't want to deal with that, if you don't want to reconcile that or fix it, that's really not on me. I've already done all I can do to tell you that you're wrong, and so I learned to not let that kind of stuff bother me. But I think it's just a personal thing, and I don't think it's wrong either way. Like I think it's just however much energy you want to devote to something, as long as you're not driving yourself to rage quitting, I think it's fine.
I think that's the problem. For a while, I was okay with it. Over the last 6 months, it kind of ramped up a little bit, and in the last month, it just hockey spiked, and it just, like, literally the other day, I freaked out at somebody. I shouted at Paul M. Jones in a way that was just completely unacceptable, and that was when I realized, holy fuck, I've got a problem here. Like, this has gone from being something that was fine. I was helping people learn beyond, despite their intentions. I was kind of forcing correctness upon them. And then I just had so much stupid happen that I just freaked out at Paul, and it was not okay. And I was like, right, I need to stop this. I need to get the fuck off Reddit. I need to focus on getting some freelance projects done. I need to, get some things off my to-do list. I need to stop giving a fuck about what random internet people think and just get on with my life. And in the last 3 days, I've been much happier for just really focusing on my work. Ben?
I did really kind of admire how you handled that, though, because you realized, hey, I freaked the fuck out, and then you apologized for it publicly. It was if more people would do that, we would have a lot less drama. Yeah. So really, props to you, dude, for
seriously, yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, you owned it like a man and said, owned up to a mistake that you made, and Paul's a good dude, and I think I was impressed to see that too.
He's a facade lover, but he's a good guy.
Don't start. Nice.
He does love his facades.
Hey, Aura has facades.
We're testing you.
I'm saying Aura has facades. I might have broke them along with David's family, but it has them.
Nice. Well, on that bombshell, I think we've been recording for 2 hours now, so this might be a time to consider calling it quits.
Well, there are technically 2 podcasts here, so that's an hour each.
That's fine. We can take the half that we prefer. There's a quick one. Before we pop off. Did you guys think of a composer package that you were very impressed with? Not one that's yours, not one that belongs to the PHP League, but is there anything out there that you are very impressed with that you'd like to give a shout out to people?
Jeff, how about you take this one? And we'll listen for your answer about 5 minutes from now when your life catches up.
Let's see, composer packages that I really really like. Um, there isn't there isn't that many that I find myself using a lot. So there's nothing that's really been substantially useful to me. And you already took the one that I was gonna say that I used recently just for fun away by saying I can't mention the League package, but
Okay, you
I'm
can
gonna
mention the
mention.
league package. You can mention the league package, but me and Matt are both involved with it, so we'd just be pimping our own goods. But if you have one you like, you crack on.
All right, fine. So I was working on an OAuth project for. There was using the OAuth 2 client actually was actually useful to me because I wrote my own adapter for our personal or our own provider and used that, and it worked without a hitch. So there was no issues there. So if you're doing OAuth, I would definitely suggest checking out that OAuth 2 client from the League.
Excellent. I think Matt, you've got a little bit of code in there, haven't you?
Yeah, I did some of the Python stuff with you for a while.
Oh, that was the Twitter one. That's the
Yeah.
the OAuth client.
Twitter Python port. That was a lot of actually. I found more than anything working on that actually helped improve my Vim skills quite a bit because
Oh,
of
I
all
bet.
the reformatting and stuff from Python to PHP was fantastic. So I was able to do a lot of that stuff with big Vim commands and change self to this and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah. Actually, that's a really interesting project for anyone that wants to take it on. Is pick any Python package, any random Python package that you like, and try and port it to PHP. Whether you release it or not, I don't care. But just try it. It's really interesting. Whenever I do it, it makes me really really upset about PHP syntax. Like the lack of named parameters, the lack of list comprehension. There are various different aspects of Python syntax that I find to be, it's so lovely. Like you can't do without it, and then you find yourself like, okay, better make this work in PHP then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was. I mean, the first 2 nights that we worked on it, you were like, I'm gonna start at the bottom and start going up, and you start at the top and start going down, and we'll run into each other whenever we run into each other, and it was it was kind of a mess.
Yeah. What's your package anyway, Matt?
I've actually run into this a few times. It's a package that everybody knows and everybody's heard of. So I found myself using it a lot as I've done a lot more of this OAuth and API stuff. So you've all heard of it. I just want to kind of implore everyone to use it if you're ever making requests, and that's Guzzle. Like, don't write your own curl wrapper or do any other sort of nonsense like that. Like, Guzzle, just use it.
Just literally just use it. Yeah. If you're going to make a HTTP request, fuck off. I don't care what your special snowflake excuse is. Just use it.
Use Guzzle.
Just
You
use
can
Guzzle.
do it with headers and with. I mean, it's just there's literally at this point anyway. There's literally no reason not to use it.
Yeah.
Not a good one.
People will spout performance, probably, but with PHP 5 having APC Zend Optimizer built in, the fact that it has to load 4 or 5 classes to perform it, zero fucks given.
Just use it. I mean, the performance trade-offs that you might be making don't even compare to, in my mind anyway, don't even compare to the how easy it is to use and how awful it is to actually work with the curl extension. So, yeah, it might take you an extra little bit of time or whatever. I wouldn't even consider that as a reason not to use it, though.
Fair enough. Ben, what you got?
I think Composer is kind of overrated. I still use phpclasses.org. Just kidding. I'm actually going to say PHP Unit because I think it's pretty cool that they basically deprecated everything else and they're going mostly Composer now. So if you haven't heard Grumpy Programmer, just whining on Twitter all day about how you should test, you should probably check out PHP Unit and start testing.
Are you sucking
it's-
up?
Actually, I thought that was an insult. Was that sucking up?
I don't know. You mentioned PHP Unit. It sounds like you're
He
sucking
doesn't
up a little
own
bit.
PHP Unit. I mean,
Well, I know, but you're.
because he
I know what you're
capitalizes
doing.
on someone else's work all day long doesn't
Dude,
mean he owns it.
I know what you're doing. I can see through you.
He's like 4 times my size. He could squish me.
Yeah, 4. Try like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm with Matt on that. That's science. That's just legitimate fact.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like 4 pins.
short, dude. Like you're legitimately short. I'm short. You're short.
I like how he went from just like a joke about him being slightly larger to Matt just being like, yeah, but Ben, you're short though, right? You know that.
Comes
I
from
never-
someone whose Twitter ID is short, white, bald guy.
Yeah,
So
but yours would have like 3 O's in it. Like,
See,
you're
are you
short,
Are
dude.
you like me, Matt? Every time I pass someone, like let's say I'm in the store and I pass someone shorter than me, I always whisper over to my wife, like I could kick his ass right now.
No, I don't do that. I don't know. I mean, we're on kind of 2 different things. Like, I'm walking around kind of at like armpit level for most people, but you're kind of like at that
Dude, I kick so much
butt
midget
level,
ass.
dude. Dude,
I
so
just-
like when
I woke up and there's just midgets flying everywhere. I'm just kicking the shit out of them.
we got different smells going on at our different altitudes.
Which of the states do midget tossing as a sport?
I don't think I could pick up a midget at my size because they're just a little shorter than me, not much.
Are you allowed to say midget because you're short?
Yeah, it's totally acceptable.
It's on his driver's license.
Yeah. Well, to wrap this one up, my
Are
package,
there any groups we haven't fitted yet? Because we're just going around the circle here.
Scottish people, we'll get them covered next week.
No, actually, in the IRC, someone said that they thought you were Scottish, so there we go.
I'm 25% Scottish, so that basically works. I only wear a dress sometimes.
See, all these years I thought you were Australian because of the accent.
Shut up. So my package is wonderful. It's Dingo API is the name of the. I didn't mean to do that. I apologize to everyone that just heard that. So the composer package that I will recommend is Dingo/API, and what it is a kind of a plugin to Laravel that basically makes it even better for making a RESTful API. So it handles things like it integrates with our OAuth2 server, as Jeff's already recommended, from the league. You can use that OAuth2 server. It handles things like rate limiting and returning different content types and a bunch of other really cool stuff. So Dingo API, go and check it out. And yeah, that's it. I'm calling time on this epic podcast. It's literally double length. But that's just because we talked about a bunch of stuff. So thanks for asking the questions, everybody. And
Thanks for joining us for the worst was a couple podcast and the best PHP town hall podcast so far.
yeah, sounds about right. It's fun to have you guys on the show. We should do it more often.
Yeah, I had fun. We gotta get Jeff. We gotta get you a better connection, though, my man.
Maybe we should do it sometime when I have a better internet connection. Yeah.
I was concerned that it was
that's what I was
gonna be
going to
me.
say, yeah.
I'm in a random hotel in the middle of a small town that's surrounded by fields. So the fact that you're in San Francisco and you're about 5 years behind the lag doesn't make any sense.
Isn't San Francisco where the internet was invented, dude?
Well, I'm in the
He's
mission, so it's kind of hit or miss in San Francisco.
Oh dear. Well, I'm just glad that you haven't been mugged whilst we've been recording the
Dude,
show.
you could so get that homeless person lick going on in the mission.
Yeah, dude.
I could, yeah. I may do that
Go
after
for it.
this.
Go sleep on the street, dude.
Wow. Trying to wrap this episode up is like herding kittens. This is not going very well. Everybody, good night. Just good night.
Good night, Twitter land.
Bye.
Good night.